Part 5, Translation of Writings. Prose. The problem of modern India and its solution. The ancient history of India is full of descriptions of the gigantic energies and their multifarious workings, the boundless spirit, the combination of indomitable action and reaction of the various forces, and above all, the profound thoughtfulness of a godly race. If the word history is understood to mean merely narratives of kings and emperors and pictures of society, tyrannized over from time to time by the evil passions, haughtiness, avarice, etc., of the rulers of the time, portraying the acts resulting from their good or evil propensities and how these reacted upon the society of that time. Such a history India perhaps does not possess. But every line of that mass of the religious literature of India, her ocean of poetry, her philosophies, and various scientific works reveal to us 1,000 times more clearly than the narratives of the life incidents and genealogies of particular kings and emperors can ever do, the exact position and every step made in advance by that vast body of men who, even before the dawn of civilization, impelled by hunger and thirst, lust and greed, etc., attracted by the charm of beauty, endowed with a great and indomitable mental power, and moved by various sentiments, arrived through various ways and means at that stage of eminence. Although the heaps of those triumphal flags which they gathered in their innumerable victories over nature, with which they had been waging war for ages, have of late been torn and tattered by the violent winds of adverse circumstances, and become worn out through age, yet they still proclaim the glory of ancient India. Whether this race slowly proceeded from Central Asia, Northern Europe, or the Arctic regions, and gradually came down and sanctified India by settling there at last, or whether the Holy Land of India was their original native place, we have no proper means of knowing now, or whether a vast race living in or outside India, being displaced from its original abode, in conformity with natural laws, came in the course of time to colonize and settle over Europe and other places, and whether these people were white or black, blue eyed or dark eyed, golden haired or black haired, all these matters there is no sufficient ground to prove now, with the one exception of the fact of the kinship of Sanskrit with a few European languages. Similarly, it is not easy to arrive at a final conclusion as to the modern Indians, whether they all are the pure descendants of that race, or how much of the blood of that race is flowing in their veins, or again, what races amongst them have any of that even in them. However, we do not, in fact, lose much by this uncertainty. But there is one fact to remember of that ancient Indian race upon which the rays of civilization first dawned, where deep thoughtfulness first revealed itself in full glory. There are still found hundreds of thousands of its children, born of its mind, the inheritors of its thoughts and sentiments, ready to claim them, crossing over mountains, rivers, arid oceans, setting at naught, as it were, the obstacles of the distance of space and time. The blood of Indian thought has flowed, and is still flowing into the veins of other nations of the globe, whether in a distinct or in some subtle unknown way. Perhaps to us belongs the major portion of the universal ancient inheritance. In a small country lying in the eastern corner of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful and adorned by nature, and garlanded by well formed and beautiful looking islands, lived a race of men who were few in number, but of a very charming aspect, perfectly formed, and strong in muscles and sinews, light of body, yet possessing steadiness and perseverance, and who were unrivaled for the creation of all earthly beauties, as well as endowed with extraordinary practicality and intellect. The other ancient nations used to call them Yavanas, but they called themselves Greeks. This handful of a vigorous and wonderful race is a unique example in the annals of man. Wherever and in whatever nation there has been or is any advance made in earthly science up to the present day, such as social, martial, political, sculptural, etc., there the shadow of ancient Greece has fallen. Let us leave apart the consideration of ancient times, for even in this modern age, We, the Bengalis, think ourselves proud and enlightened simply by following the footmarks of these Yavana gurus for these last 50 years, illumining our homes with what light of theirs is reaching us through the European literature. The whole of Europe nowadays is in every respect the disciple of ancient Greece and her proper inheritor, so much so that a wise man of England had said, "Whatever nature has not created, that is the creation of the Greek mind." These two gigantic rivers, Aryans and Yavanas, issuing from far away and different mountains, India and Greece, occasionally come in contact with each other, and whenever such confluence takes place, a tremendous intellectual or spiritual tide rising in human societies greatly expands the range of civilization and confirms the bond of universal brotherhood among men. Once in far remote antiquity, the Indian philosophy, coming in contact with Greek energy, led to the rise of the Persian, the Roman, and other great nations. After the invasion of Alexander the Great, these two great waterfalls colliding with each other deluged nearly half of the globe with spiritual tides, such as Christianity. Again, a similar commingling, resulting in the improvement and prosperity of Arabia, laid the foundation of modern European civilization. And perhaps in our own day, such a time for the conjunction of these two gigantic forces has presented itself again. This time their center is India. The air of India preeminently conduces to quietness. The nature of the Yavana is the constant expression of power. Profound meditation characterizes the one, the indomitable spirit of dexterous activity, the other. One's motto is renunciation, the other's enjoyment. One's whole energy is directed inwards, the other's outwards. One's whole learning consists in the knowledge of the self or the subject, the other's in the knowledge of the not self or the object, perishable creation. One loves moksha, spiritual freedom, the other loves political independence. One is unmindful of gaining prosperity in this world, the other sets his whole heart on making a heaven of this world. One aspiring after eternal bliss is indifferent to all the ephemeral pleasures of this life, and the other, doubting the existence of eternal bliss, or knowing it to be far away, directs his whole energy to the attainment of earthly pleasures as much as possible. In this age, both these types of mankind are extinct. Only their physical and mental children, their works and thoughts are existing. Europe and America are the advanced children of the Yavanas, a glory to their forefathers. But the modern inhabitants of the land of Bharata are not the glory of the ancient Aryas. But as fire remains intact under cover of ashes, so the ancestral fire still remains latent in these modern Indians. Through the grace of the Almighty Power, it is sure to manifest itself in time. What will accrue when that ancestral fire manifests itself? Would the sky of India again appear clouded over by waving masses of smoke springing from the Vedic sacrificial fire? Or is the glory of Rantideva again going to be revived in the blood of the sacrificed animals? Are the old customs of Gomedha, Ashwamedha, or perpetuating the lineage from a husband's brother, and other usages of a like nature to come back again? Or is the deluge of a Buddhistic propaganda again going to turn the whole of India into a big monastery? Are the laws of Manu going to be rehabilitated as of yore? Or is the discrimination of food, prescribed and forbidden, varying in accordance with geographical dimensions as it is at the present day, alone going to have its all power domination over the length and breadth of the country? Is the caste system to remain? And is it going to depend eternally upon the birthright of a man? Or is it going to be determined by his qualification? And again, in that caste system, is the discrimination of food, its touchableness or untouchableness, dependent upon the purity or the impurity of the man who touches it, to be observed as it is in Bengal? Or will it assume a form more strict as it does in Madras? Or as in the Punjab? Will all such restrictions be obliterated? Are the marriages of the different varnas to take place from the upper to the lower varna in the successive order, as in Manu's days, and as it is still in vogue in Nepal? Or, as in Bengal and other places, are they to be kept restricted to a very limited number of individuals constituting one of the several communities of a certain class of the Varna? To give a conclusive answer to all these questions is extremely difficult. They become the more difficult of solution, considering the difference in the customs prevailing in different parts of the country. Nay, as we find even in the same part of the country, such a wide divergence of customs among different castes and families. Then what is to be? What we should have is what we have not. Perhaps what our forefathers even had not, that which the Yavanas had, that impelled by the life vibration of which is issuing forth in rapid succession from the great dynamo of Europe, the electric flow of that tremendous power vivifying the whole world. We want that. We want that energy, that love of independence, that spirit of self reliance, that immovable fortitude, that dexterity in action, that bond of unity of purpose, that thirst for improvement. Checking a little the constant looking back to the past, we want that expansive vision infinitely projected forward, and we want that intense spirit of activity, rajas, which will flow through our every vein, from head to foot. What can be a greater giver of peace than renunciation? A little ephemeral worldly good is nothing in comparison with eternal good. No doubt of that. What can bring greater strength than sattvaguna, absolute purity of mind? It is indeed true that all other kinds of knowledge are but non knowledge in comparison with self knowledge. But I ask, how many are there in the world fortunate enough to gain that sattvaguna? How many in this land of Bharata? How many have that noble heroism which can renounce all, shaking off the idea of I and mine? How many are blessed enough to possess that far sight of wisdom which makes the earthly pleasures appear to be but vanity of vanities? Where is that broad hearted man who is apt to forget even his own body in meditating over the beauty and glory of the divine? Those who are such are but a handful in comparison to the population of the whole of India, and in order that these men may attain to their salvation, will the millions and millions of men and women of India have to be crushed under the wheel of the present day society and religion? And what good can come out of such a crushing? Do you not see? Talking up this plea of sattva, the country has been slowly and slowly drowned in the ocean of tamas or dark ignorance, where the most dull want to hide their stupidity by covering it with a false desire for the highest knowledge, which is beyond all activities, either physical or mental, where one, born and bred in lifelong laziness, wants to throw the veil of renunciation over his own unfitness for work, where the most diabolical try to make their cruelty appear under the cloak of austerity as a part of religion, where no one has an eye upon his own incapacity, but every one is ready to lay the whole blame on others, where knowledge consists only in getting some books by heart, genius consists in chewing the cud of others' thoughts, and the highest glory consists in taking the name of ancestors. Do we require any other proof to show that that country is being day by day drowned in utter tamas? Therefore, sattva or absolute purity is now far away from us. Those amongst us who are not yet fit, but who hope to be fit, to reach to that absolutely pure Paramahamsa state, for them, the acquirement of rajas or intense activity is what is most beneficial now. Unless a man passes through rajas, can he ever attain to that perfect sattvika state? How can one expect yoga or union with God unless one has previously finished with his thirst for bhoga or enjoyment? How can renunciation come where there is no vairagya or dispassion for all the charms of enjoyment? On the other hand, the quality of rajas is apt to die down as soon as it comes up, like a fire of palm leaves. The presence of sattva and the nitya or eternal reality is almost in a state of juxtaposition. Sattva is nearly nitya, whereas the nation in which the quality of rajas predominates is not so long lived, but a nation with a preponderance of sattva is, as it were, immortal. History is a witness to this fact. In India, the quality of rajas is almost absent. The same is the case with sattva in the West. It is certain, therefore, that the real life of the Western world depends upon the influx from India of the current of sattva or transcendentalism. And it is also certain that unless we overpower and submerge our tamas by the opposite tide of rajas, we shall never gain any worldly good or welfare in this life. And it is also equally certain that we shall meet many formidable obstacles in the path of realization of those noble aspirations and ideals connected with our afterlife. The one end and aim of the Udbodhana is to help the union and intermingling of these two forces as far as it lies in its power. True, in so doing, there is a great danger, lest by this huge wave of Western spirit are washed away all our most precious jewels, earned through ages of hard labor. True, there is fear lest falling into its strong whirlpool, even the land of Bharata forgets itself so far as to be turned into a battlefield in the struggle after earthly enjoyments. Aye, there is fear too, lest going to imitate the impossible and impracticable foreign ways, rooting out as they do our national customs and ideals, we lose all that we hold dear in this life and be undone in the next. To avoid these calamities, we must always keep the wealth of our own home before our eyes, so that every one down to the masses may always know and see what his own ancestral property is. We must exert ourselves to do that, and side by side, we should be brave to open our doors to receive all available light from outside. Let rays of light come in sharp driving showers from the four quarters of the earth. Let the intense flood of light flow in from the west. What of that? Whatever is weak and corrupt is liable to die. What are we to do with it? If it goes, let it go. What harm does it do to us? What is strong and invigorating is immortal. Who can destroy that? How many gushing springs and roaring cataracts, how many icy rivulets and ever flowing streamlets, issuing from the eternal snow capped peaks of the Himalayas, combine and flow together to form the gigantic river of the gods, the Ganga, and rush impetuously towards the ocean. So, what a variety of thoughts and ideas, how many currents of forces, issuing from innumerable saintly hearts, and from brains of geniuses of various lands, have already enveloped India, the land of karma, the arena for the display of higher human activities. Look, how under the dominion of the English, in these days of electricity, railroad, and steamboat, various sentiments, manners, customs, and morals are spreading all over the land with lightning speed. Nectar is coming, and along with it, also poison. Good is coming, as well as evil. There has been enough of angry opposition and bloodshed. The power of stemming this tide is not in Hindu society. Everything, from water filtered by machinery and drawn from hydrants, down to sugar purified with bone ash, is being quietly and freely taken by almost everyone, in spite of much show of verbal protest. Slowly and slowly, by the strong dint of law, many of our most cherished customs are falling off day by day. We have no power to withstand that. And why is there no power? Is truth really powerless? Truth alone conquers and not falsehood. Is this divine Vedic saying false? Or who knows but that those very customs which are being swept away by the deluge of the power of Western sovereignty or of Western education were not real acharas, but were anacharas after all? This also is a matter for serious consideration. Bahu Jana Hitai, Bahu Jana Sukhai, for the good of the many as well as for the happiness of the many. In an unselfish manner, with a heart filled with love and reverence, the Udbodhana invites all wise and large hearted men who love their motherland to discuss these points and solve these problems, and being devoid of the feeling of hatred or antagonism, as well as turning itself away from the infliction of abusive language directed towards any individual or society or any sect. It offers its whole self for the service of all classes. To work we have the right. The result is in the hands of the Lord. We only pray, O thou eternal Spirit, make us spiritual. O thou eternal strength, make us strong. O thou mighty one, make us mighty.